I've prepared for this by having a little nap in the garden.
Power nap.
Well, it wasn't power nap, it was 2 apps.
The Tyre Kickers, classic car chat with Max and Matt.
Welcome to The Tyre Kickers, the podcast for classic car fans on a journey of self-improvement.
Self-improvement? The only journey I seem to be on is to Halfords.
The Tyre Kickers.
In this episode, we're asking, what's the best colour for a classic car? Is it best to go bright or be more mature and muted? We'll get the colour chart out and argue the paint code.
Plus all the switchgear and no idea. Some classics have terrible switches, some have cool ones. We'll name the worst and celebrate those that click.
And we hear your thoughts on storage, Aussie motors, and more guilty pleasures.
Plus, guess what? Max is obsessed with another 70s motor. We'll find out which one. So buckle up and check your blind spot as we pull away in episode 53 of The Tyre Kickers.
Driving and arguing since 2024. This is The Tyre Kickers.
So, we've talked on previous shows about how modern cars are now a sea of mediocrity, all those dull blacks and greys. But with a classic car, you have a chance to be bold and drive a primary colour. Cars of the 60s especially were a rainbow choice of cool hues.
Yeah, colours like Carnival Red, Mimosa Yellow, Electric Blue and Java Green. I mean, all were designed to stand out in the car park, not simply blend in like cars now. But given there's so much choice, Max, which colour suits a classic best? I mean, is there a shade that shines or is it down to the make and model, perhaps?
Well, it's a choice, isn't it? Is bright the best, or are you smarter going for something more subtle? Because obviously now they say, well, if you order a new car, it's got to be grey or black or some boring colour because of the resale value. Now, I don't think that matters so much in classic cars, but do you always want to buy something with a minging hue, for example? Because you do have to sell it at some point, and you do see at auctions some bright colours are stuck there for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think you need to buy it mindfully that if it's a Marmite colour, you're going to struggle to sell it on. But I think with a classic car, it's probably your only opportunity now in cars to buy a car that's bright. You know, you've got it laid out for you. Most of these colours are beautiful colours. I mean, let's pull up a Triumph colour chart from the 1970s. You won't see many, it might have been a bit brown, but you'll see plenty of primary colours up there. I mean, look at these. There's some beautiful yellows, some oranges, greens, blues, bright blues. I mean, some of these really ping, don't they?
Well, I think Mimosa, which is a kind of yellow on a Stag, looks really good, doesn't it? I've seen a few Mimosa Stags and they look great. Plus the British Racing Green, that's always a great colour for a Triumph, isn't it? And actually, I mean, the browns are pretty good. I've always liked the browns and the reds, particularly on Stags. There's this carmine red, which is a cracking colour. I mean, what's your favourite colour on a Stag? Because obviously you don't get to choose a colour on a classic car, really. You get to get what the previous owners kind of already got. So you've just got the choice of car. What would your ideal Stag colour be?
Pimento red.
Pimento red, okay.
Yeah, actually, now you're asking a question, probably a primary colour, probably a yellow, probably a white or a red.
I always think white cars, they slightly lose the lines a bit on it, but I do like a good red sports car. I think that looks really good. Well, you hit on this point. Do different types of car suit different colours? Now, my Mercedes SL, for example, is signal red, but is red on a sports car driven by a middle-aged man shouting midlife crisis? At least that's what people shout at me when I'm driving it.
Yeah, look at him. Look at that old bloke in that Mercedes. What an idiot. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, red on a sports car is the great colour. I'm not bothered about what people think. It's definitely a neck snapper, a red car, because people expect to see, non-car people expect to see sports cars in red, don't they? So it's definitely one they stand and look at. But I know what you mean. A colour on a sports car doesn't necessarily work really well on a big car. I mean, take a big Rolls Royce or something, bright red on that might not work, or big old Mercedes. Yeah, I think the colours have got to sort of suit it. What about Jags? I mean, Jaguar always had good paint colours.
Well, I've just put up the Jaguar paint code from 1987 up on your screen here.
Wow.
And actually,
it's almost like this is planned. This show.
Quite, yeah. I haven't just been sleeping in the garden all afternoon. So there are some nice colours here in the Jags. They did that kind of almond, which is a sort of browny colour. They did the green sand, but mostly they were quite subtle colours. They did the pale primrose, but I can't remember seeing many yellow XJ6s. So they were mainly the kind of subtle fern greys and light blues, willow greens, ocean blues, and that suited that kind of bank manager, captain of industry who was driving an XJ6. You didn't really see many bright red ones or yellow ones because it just didn't really suit the car, did it? Those are sports car colours. I think the Jaguar more subtle colours were quite nice. I think there was a kind of, there was a golden sand colour that was really nice, a very 70s colour that went well with a kind of beige interior. So those Jaguar hues, they are a bit more subtle. Now, how about this one on your screen now? This is the Lamborghini Fly Yellow on this Countach. Look at this. I mean, you really wouldn't miss this in a crowd, would you? And I do think the more outrageous the car, and in this sense, the Lamborghini Countach is pretty outrageous, the more outrageous the colour, because you wouldn't want a Lambo in grey, would you? You've got to have a bright colour. And this kind of like fly yellow is just tremendous. It looks so good on the Countach.
Yeah, it does. And it changes the personality of the car. It makes it look more fun. I think if that was in a dark colour, obviously this is a one from 1988, but if that was even a modern Lamborghini in a dark colour, it kind of looks a little bit more like you're trying to be, a TikTok influencer. Whereas this just looks fun, doesn't it? It looks.
Yeah, you're just looking loud, aren't you? You just want to be loud because you're just going to be so. I mean, firstly, it's a loud car anyway. And secondly, with that yellow, you just couldn't miss it. I really like that. I'm not a huge yellow car fan, but that looks tremendous.
Let's talk about, before we wrap this up, let's talk about American cars. If you're going to buy bold colours, then you find loads in American cars, don't you? I mean, what about things like oranges and yellows and stuff like that? I mean, must be able to find some of those on the internet.
Oh, look at this. I mean, American cars in the 60s and 70s just went crazy. This is a 1969 Chevy Camaro SS. So this is the fastest Camaro in Hugger Orange, which is the most vibrant, kind of like bright orange, even slightly kind of like light red color. I mean, it is a fantastic color, isn't it? Hugger Orange was a great kind of like sports car color. And you could, again, like that Lamborghini, you could see that coming. It's meant to make a statement. It's a loud car and it's got a very loud color. I really like that. I like that kind of 70s American car shouting in your face muscle car approach, because it's not subtle, it's loud. And that's what the muscle cars were meant to be about.
What about this for a yellow one, a banana Dodge?
Oh yeah, this is top banana, isn't it? And it's bright yellow, this, isn't it? That's an amazing amount of color in one car. Actually, it's almost like a kind of, what would you describe that? That's the kind of yellow from a bee, isn't it? It's about as loud and as vibrant and as bright a yellow you can get. You kind of, in your stag yellows, they're quite subtle, that mimosa. But the American Dodge colours, they were so bright. That is a slap in the face.
I think I prefer British cars and European cars in bright colours. I prefer the smaller cars. I think it makes those cars just pop, just makes them stand out on British roads, whereas American cars are just sort of loud to start with.
I mean, I've had two red classic cars in a row, and your Sunbeam Alpine was red as well. So I do think sports cars, red is a great colour for them. And also in the sunshine, it does really stand out.
What's your favourite classic car colour? Do let us know. You can contact us via our socials on Instagram and Facebook, and here's how you do it.
You can find us at The Tyre Kickers UK on Instagram and The Tyre Kickers on Facebook.
It's episode 53 of The Tyre Kickers. Good to have you along. What have we been up to? Well, I didn't go to the Brooklands thing, Max, this weekend because the weather is bank holiday weekend here in the UK when we're recording this. And if you live in the UK, what does that mean? The weather's going to be rubbish. So come Saturday morning, I went to put the garage up on the car. It was grey, and I thought, you know what? I'll go up to the big Brooklands Easter Classic meet, and it started raining. And I thought, I don't want to look at cars in the rain, in the grey. So I sort of chickened out. I mean, it's 25 quid to get in as well. So you've got to make it worthwhile going, I think. So I sort of chickened out of that, and I felt bad about it. But I saw some cars today, so I was fine about that. I've got some new wheels. I've got some alloy wheels, replacement alloy wheels, so my car's looking very good. Thank you, Lawrence, who helped me sort those out. I've got some new tyres on. Choosing tyres for a classic car, what a pain. I've mentioned this in the previous episode, but nobody agrees on what to have.
No, but just don't read the forums. Otherwise, you'll never get on. Have you noticed a difference in the drive? Is it driving a bit sharper with new tyres? Because those old ones were kind of like, 10, 15 years old, weren't they?
They were 13 years old, yeah.
13,
I wouldn't say it's put me on the apex, but it's definitely made me think I'm not going to die quite as quickly. Because I felt there's more probably fresh rubber on the road. No, it hasn't. It hasn't really. I mean, it's not actually made much difference at all. On my last car, when I replaced all the tyres, on the Alpine, I did notice a difference. On this one, I think because I've got power steering and it's kind of American power steering, it's, it doesn't give you that feel. The car's running brilliantly. I was hooning it up and down the motorway. No, I wasn't. I was sticking to the national speed limit. Let's point out. No, but
listen, if you get a speeding ticket, you should frame it in a classic car.
Do you think I should be overtaking all the cars? Because I have been overtaking quite a lot of cars. I've been going faster than the traffic.
Yeah.
Because they're dithering around. On the motorway now, people seem to dither about 50.
Well, they're all on that kind of radar cruise, aren't they? Obviously in the Stag, that doesn't exist. That's called your eyes. So you just don't have that. I think radar cruise is ruining the way Britain drives because everybody's on it and nobody really pays any attention.
Everybody's driving like zombies.
Yeah, and then you're in a classic car, you don't have that. You have to brake. You're a bit more aware of things, I think.
I was doing 70 and I was still sort of the fastest thing on the motorway. And I think, well, wakey, keep moving. So, but the car's running really well. So I ran it out a couple of times today. I kind of ran it around Windsor, drove it around the castle and stuff. The King wasn't in at the moment. I thought you might be interested in a Stag. So I thought, might.
Yeah, not a brown one. Sorry. Mimosa, red, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. It's not yellow. So I've used the car a couple of bits. That was good. I went to adjust the heater and the radio broke. So the radio's now broken. I need to find out what that is.
Are those two connected? Was it a fuse blowing?
Well, I think it's either chopped through a wire. I tell you, I had a quick look and I can't see anything, but probably the fuse has gone. So I'll probably have a look at that. So I'm a bit tuneless at the moment. But otherwise, that's pretty much good. But the car is looking really good. I've got a few little bits to do to it, but it's looking good in the sunshine, despite of the fact it's brown. What about you? Now, I've got an inkling that you might have got a bit obsessed with something.
Yeah, I've got something to confess. I'd like our audience to perhaps sit down somewhere comfy and listen to this because it's a sad story. We'll change the names in this story, so let's just call him Max. He fell in love with a lady called Silver Shadow, and 1973 Rolls. They met on a dating site called Auto Trader. It was love at first sight, but Silver had a secret. She had bad rust.
The rust had spread everywhere. Max tried to forget her, but Silver Shadow was cheap. She was available, and of course, for those reasons, Max fell in love with her. All too soon, he was flicking through her history, thumbing through her MOT history, buying books about her. Max had it bad, but it wasn't to be.
Yes, it's the love that dare not speak its name. It's a cheap 1973 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. Now, I saw it last week. I went to have a look at it. I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, not again.
It's rusty, it's tired, it's a bit baggy, it's a bit leggy.
Is that you or the car?
But it is in my perfect colour combo of peacock blue with a blue leather interior. Now, you've got to talk me out of this because this is absolutely crazy. It is less than 10 grand, but the problem with this is if I wanted to put it into the kind of condition that I'd want it, I'd need to respray it. And then that's 15 grand to respray a Silver Shadow because the windows need to come out. And then you've got a Silver Shadow that owes you 25,000 that's worth about 11,000. So stop me, somebody.
I reckon go for it, yeah. Spend loads of money on it.
Oh, that's pretty helpful.
Cheap Rolls Royce. Yeah, I think just get one. I think you'll have loads of fun in that.
Nothing as expensive as a cheap Rolls Royce, but I really have started. I walked away from it saying, I'm not really interested in it, mate. It needs too much work. And then that just started the process of staring at it on Auto Trader for about 2 days.
I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'll tell you for why. We're at episode 53.
Oh, okay.
Right?
We're
running out of stuff. So this will keep us going for, let's do like 10 episodes of you
40
crying
episodes
into
of misery, isn't it? Max has his house repossessed because he's bought a Silver Shadow.
And on this episode of the Tire Kickers, we'll go through Max's bank statements. Let's see where the money went.
So this is great. What I'm trying to say is I really love it because it's in the right colours. It's a 73 Shadow 1. I love it. But it's just such bad economic sense because I'd pay 10 grand, I'd spend 15 to 20 on it, it would owe me 30. It would only be worth about 12 to 15 then because they're not worth that much money. Plus, this has got 130,000 miles on it. So do I want to have something to love and waste a load of money on, or do I just go and buy a better one for more money, but that just doesn't need so much work?
Right, okay, so let's just go through unpack a few things first. Firstly, you said never buy a cheap Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Secondly, you said, I don't want a Series 1, I want a Series 2. This is Series 1.
Yeah.
Secondly, you said, I only want it in
third. This is third now. This is point
it's
three.
Third. Oh, yeah, third. Sorry, I got so excited at putting these points out. I couldn't count. Third, you like, and you want to buy it in certain colours. And I think black or dark blue was the only colour. And this is light blue.
Yeah.
So you've changed on that.
Apart from those 3 points, yeah.
Apart from these things. Do you know what, actually, being that in all seriousness, I would buy this and not do anything with it. I'd just rag around with it, enjoy it. Get it out your system, because you've been going on about these Silver Shadows for a long time now. I think you need to buy it, scratch the itch, do it, sell it on, and probably not spend any money. Just live with the rust, unless it's... Well, yeah, but this is the problem, isn't it? I think you either spend 30 grand and get the one you want, or you spend 10 grand on this and just make some cosmetic and polish some money into it, and then move it on.
Polish some money out of it.
Yeah, well, don't polish too hard, because the rust will fall. The rust
come
will
off,
start going through, yeah. But I would say, honestly, looking at this car, and we've got it up on the screen now, we're looking at it, it looks nice from 10 feet away.
Yeah, it does. From 20 feet, it looks nice. As I drove closer to it, I went, oh.
Do you know where I'd spend the money? I'd spend the money, as long as the engine runs okay and it's been serviced and that sort of stuff, I would spend the money on the interior, because the seats they're just a bit tired, and you could give them to a specialist and they could get those looking really, really nice. And you open the door and have a wow. So it's just the front seats are quite warm. The back's not quite so bad. But I'd just get those seats improved, and I would keep it, and I would enjoy it for a year, and I would sell it.
Yeah, or I could buy it and take my glasses off.
Episode 53, and lots of you have been in touch since we last spoke, haven't they, Max?
Simon Tooley on Spotify said he really enjoyed our Guilty Pleasures episode. He said he was listening while out for a walk and was chuckling under his breath at what we were saying. I think what I was saying. Glad to hear it, Simon. Glad we made you laugh.
He was laughing at the nonsense you were talking. Also on Spotify, Crisp Man says he really enjoyed the 50th episode and adds, here's to the next 50. Oh, sorry, 50? I don't think we're doing 50 more, are we? Let me check my contract.
We spoke about the price of classics down under last episode, and Steve-O from Melbourne got in touch to say he loved the chat and offered up a few more cars. He says prices are high on some stuff, but just like the UK, values have dropped since COVID. Dave Reeves here in the UK pinged us a DM to say he's finally got his Tyre Kickers Windows sticker. Thank you for being patient. And said he's just deciding which of his classics to stick it to. He has a few, including a tractor. Now, we should definitely do a classic tractor episode.
Really? Okay. I'll take your word for it. Yeah, and if you want a Windows sticker, we've got a few left, I think. You can stick it on your classic, take a picture. Just send us a DM on Instagram or Facebook with your name and address, and we'll send one out to you. Changing the subject and moving on, Mark Dempsey's taken issue with one of your comments on episode 50, Max. You said the Ferrari 355 is not that exciting, and he said he spat his coffee out of that.
I've never been a huge fan of the 355 because it's got that Fiat interior. And so you look at the 355, which looks a bit like an overgrown Toyota MR2, and you sit in it and you see switches from the Fiat Strada. So it was never really one of my favourite Ferraris because they just lost the interior for a bit.
Well, Mark doesn't agree. He says in his mind, the 355 is one of the best looking Fezzas of all time. In terms of the best decade, though, which is what we're actually talking about, he thinks it's the 80s. For him, hot hatches are the sweet spot. He says they were the perfect recipe, a car that you could drive to work and rag on the way home.
Now, another long-time listener, Jago Brett in Ireland, also shot us a note about the Iconics NEC auction picks and results we talked about in the last episode. Now, he totally agrees with me about the Fiat 124 Coupe being such a cracking buy at $10,600. He says it's unbelievable value for a rare and good car. Now, interestingly, I looked around at the classifieds. For another Fiat 124 Coupe, I found a left-hand drive for 17 grand. Wow. So whoever has bought that right-hand drive Fiat Coupe for 10 grand has got a steal.
We've had a complaint in, though, this time, Max. Let's sound the complaint klaxon. Yeah, there you go. It's from Fred Burden, who's in the Republic of Essex. Now, he's asking why we don't have a set of photos for each episode so people can see the cars we're yapping on about, you know, like a sort of a show guide. He says, if they're just adverts, why can't we see them as well? All right, calm down. What do you think about that, Max?
It's a great idea. It just takes a lot of effort, doesn't it? Because we have to get all the pictures of the cars we've talked about onto Instagram.
Yeah.
And that requires time.
Well, I was thinking
effort.
you could do that.
Yeah, but it would take me 2 days. You know how good I am with tech.
Well, you take a picture of the screen.
And they'd be upside down and out of focus.
We take your point, Fred. We take your point. Well, I suppose we'll try and do it. We'll try and do it because it does make sense. It's just, we have to remember to do it. We talked about cars that are your guilty pleasures a couple of episodes ago. If you've not heard that episode, it's episode 50. Scroll back and have a listen to that. And Kevin Bryant, who's a star of our bonus episode on Triumph Track Days has sent us his. He says it's an Austin Atlantic. Have you seen one of these, Max? He says he's not sure why. He says it's ugly, slow, overweight with poor handling. That's a stag, isn't it? But its saving grace was it paved the way for the Austin Healey. And I'll chuck this one up on your screen. He likes his TR3As and stuff, so you can kind of see a little bit in that.
Yeah, if you squint, yeah. The Austin Atlantic was a great story because it was about trying to sell cars to America. And so Austin had a go at designing a car they thought would look American, but it just looked like a kind of, well, it was a hash-up of sort of pre-war and post-war bad car styling. We should talk about this one day because it's a really good story. But yeah, the Austin A90 Atlantic, it's very different. It's not particularly pretty, but it's certainly a good story.
Benjamin Maltby over on Facebook got in contact as well, talking about our point last episode about the cost of classic car storage. Well, we were talking about it. You were kind of more moaning about it. He says, though, his workaround is a top-end outdoor cover. He says the one that he's got is much better than the old ones used to be. It's tough yet breathable and has opened up the possibility of owning a car that would otherwise have to be garaged. Now, he sent us a photo, Max. Have a look at this. I think it's a game we have to guess what's underneath it. He's got a Land, to describe it, he's got 2 spaces on a driveway. There's a Land Rover, old
Series
Land Rover
1 Land
series.
Rover.
Yeah, Series 1. Part there with what looks like a tow rope coming out of it. That's pretty standard. And to get it off the drive. And then next to it is another car, which is under an outdoor cover. I've got a guess of what that could be. What do you think it is?
Well, I looked at it and it's got flared wheel arches and it's about the size of a Series 1. So I was thinking it's kind of a Defender. But then I was looking at the front of it and it's got a slightly sloped front. So there was a thing called a Minerva, which the Belgians made, which is a kit of a Land Rover, which the Belgians kind of gave a different face to. But then it's got those wheel arches and Minervas didn't have wheel arches. So I'm thinking it's a Land Rover 110.
Oh, okay. I don't know. He hasn't told us. We'll have to
he's not
ask
given us the answer.
No.
All the big build-up.
Interestingly, under the Series 1, I can't see the oil patch. So perhaps it's just...
That's because there's a hose pipe where he's just washed it off.
Well, so yeah, a car cover. I'm always a bit sceptical about car covers because I think, there is...
Traps the moisture. That's what I've always been told.
I'm not sure. But yeah, tell us what the car is under there. It does look like a Land Rover. Moving on, as I mentioned, I bought a load of junk that I didn't need from the recent NEC Resto show, didn't I, on the last show? A few of you chipped in on that, including Mark LaBelle. I asked, what's your biggest regret from those shows? What sort of stuff you buy? He said it's usually the overpriced burger. Show food is normally overpriced. Yeah. It's disappointment, isn't it?
Well, you're trapped, aren't you? That's the problem.
Yeah, at least he didn't come away with all the tat that I did, I suppose.
Yeah, you bought a hose connector, didn't you?
Don't ask. Yeah,
you went to a car shop with a hose bit.
Hose bit and a flat cap.
Now, we really enjoy you chipping in on our posts on Instagram when we can be bothered and Facebook, so don't be a lurker. Please get involved. I think it's fair to say that in our 70 episodes or so, we've proven we can chat about pretty much anything involving a classic car. So let's switch it up for a minute.
I see what you've done there. Yeah, there's one element of your classic that you touch and feel every single time you drive it, but you don't really talk about it too much, and that's the switchgear. Because while some cars give you a reassuring plunk as you operate the heated rear screen, others give you a feel of a plastic stirrer.
So let's take an unscientific look at the best and worst switchgear and stalks out there. We'll applaud the good ones and name and shame the worst. Now we're looking for the best tactile offering, with a kind of mechanical honesty, the weight, the resistance, the click, even the sound.
Yeah, we'll get onto the rubbish ones in a minute, but let's go for gold to start with. The car that's not only a design classic, but has rows and rows of satisfying switches to match. That's a Series 1 E-Type Jag. Throw it up on your screen. Look at that dashboard.
See, I think this is the best dash, possibly on a production car, because all the switches are labelled and they've got that kind of nice bit of plastic sticking out bit that you flick down and flick up. You know exactly where you are. It's either on or it's off. It's got a sound to it, it's got a physical click, and it's got a feel to it. You can feel the button going down. I don't think they made a better switch than that. And this is a 1960s Series 1. When they went to the Series 2 E-Type, they went to the kind of Lucas rocker switches, and they were rubbish. So it was a real retrograde step, because I think the Series 1, they nailed it. You've got 4 gauges in a row, you've got the headlights on a big chrome switch, and then you've got all the kind of ancillary stuff on those little switches, marked underneath in beautiful font. I don't think you've got a better dash than that ever.
Yeah, and when you reach out and you touch something in that car, it's going to give you a reassuring feel, isn't it? As you say, you click, clunk the lights on with that chrome switch. They're the fingernail switches, aren't they, on these? So you flick them up, flick them down, and you get that click, as you say. Even the everything in that car, from the gear stick, the handbrake, everything else, it just has that nice feel to it. And I think that's the thing that we can put up there and aim for. I just think, sadly, as we're going to find out, it went rapidly downhill with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, that's our pin-up car. What else have we got? Let's go to something a bit more kooky.
We were talking earlier about Ferraris and 355s, and somebody saying, well, the 355 was the greatest car ever. Well, no, because it had Fiat switchgear, whereas Ferrari used to do really good switchgear. So if you look at the 1981 Ferrari 308 picture on your screen now, next to the beautiful gated manual, you've got some great heater controls, which are sliders, and again, some little tactile switches, which you can both hear click and you can feel them click. And I think that Ferrari 308 has got a great central console because it's got the aircon controls, it's got electric windows, oil temperature and water temperature gauges, and it's got those great switches. It's just fantastic. You feel it. You wouldn't need to take your eyes off the road because you could just flip a switch and you'd know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like a mixing desk from the 60s, isn't it? It's got pointy up sort of faders that you can fade up and down. I mean, typical sort of Italian ergonomics. They've put it down in the center consoles. You have to take your eyes off the road to actually use it. Whereas in the Jag, they're up in front of you. It's much more logical. But it's a thing of beauty, isn't it? And you know that the tactility of that is going to be really, really nice to use, which will give you pleasure to the car. And I'm a big believer in that. I think the way your car feels is a sense that you sometimes don't think about, but it does leave a lasting impression on you. You know, it's how you think about that car. And I think certainly as we get on into the 70s, some of the cars don't really leave you with a great impression, do they? But yeah, this is another good one. Let's find one, maybe two more, the pinnacle, and then we'll get down and dirty and the ones that are rubbish.
Well, you talked about the 70s. Now, Volvo were doing great strides in the 70s about safety because you needed to switch a switch in a car in order to keep the windows demisted or the hazard lights on. Now, if you have a look at this Volvo 244, it's a 1975 one, and it's got 3 switches on the console. In bright yellow, there's the fog lights. Separated from that in the switch next door is in bright green, it says rear demist, and then next to that is a red switch, which is hazard. Now, when you click those 1970s Volvo switches, they clicked them down and then they illuminated and they made a noise as well. They made a clickety-clack noise. But it was just such a fantastic switch. Plastic switch, thumb-sized, you could operate it with gloves on. You knew whether it was on or off by looking at it, by feeling it. So it's just the ideal switch, and you can't get better than Volvo for switches.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's not about necessarily looking the prettiest. This is functional. You know those switches are just going to clunk, as you say. The light switch is sort of really pronounced on this as well, that you can see as you're going to put your fingers to it, it's going to go click, click. It's not necessarily about being the prettiest. It's about the tactility of it. As I say, the feeling that when you engage that switch, it's just going to work, and it's a bit of quality. Well, I'm just going to throw one more in, actually. One more. This is not a car we don't talk about very often on the show, but have a look at this dash. Photo 25 on this, Max, right up on your screen. A Jensen FF. Have a look at this. Now, the build quality of this was often equated to like a mini Rolls Royce, but if you scroll to that picture of the dashboard, so you're going to go down, 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 down. And the Jensen FFs, what's the difference between a Jensen FF and an Interceptor?
Well, here's a good story.
Oh, okay.
Because the FF was the 4-wheel drive with the first production car with anti-lock disc brakes with ABS. Because before then, ABS was only used on planes. But this is the first car that brought ABS to production, and it was a 4-wheel drive, way before its time. So the Jensen FF is a really interesting car, which we will talk about in the future. But the dash, you're right, spot on. 4 gauges in a row, and then you've got these kind of click switches that you know are going to be on or off. This is the idea. I can look at that and press it on, and then I can look back at it again, and I know the fog lights are on.
Again, it's that clarity and that clunk that you know, even by just looking at it, it's going to have.
Yeah, so those are the ones that click for us. I mean, you can operate them with gloves. It's a bit like aircraft. You know when the switches are on or off. But there are very many, many, many switches that just don't do that. And obviously, it won't be long before I start talking about British Leyland. So, by the magic of radio, Matt has hot-footed it down to his Stag in the garage of his house to give us a bit of switchgear show and tell. Now, Matt, are you there? Over.
Well, yes, I am. I've come down into the garage. I'm sat inside my 1978 Triumph Stag. Just slammed the door there. The door sounds all right. The switchgear, not so great. Here's the light switch. It works, it does the job, but it's that kind of plasticky, kind of groany sound. It's not been engineered very well. The same with the switchgear. I mean, this is the windscreen wiper. It's okay, but the indicator stalk, I think, is an aftermarket one, and it just it doesn't feel very sort of solid, and it also rubs against the plastic as well. I really don't like that. Some of the other switches, I mean, the heater controls sound all right. Bit of a loud ping. You can adjust the temperature. That feels okay. Window switches. Yeah, they're okay. And probably the best switch I've got in here is a new one, actually, for the light switch. The interior lights, that is. Got a bit more of a clunk. But everything does feel cheaped out, really. I mean, it's a very parts-bin car, this, I think. As a lot of them were, weren't they, in the 70s, Max? I mean, BL didn't have a great reputation for having good quality instruments, you know, compared to the Germans and stuff. Why was that? Was that because it was all done to a price, because they couldn't be bothered, or they didn't really think about ergonomics and they weren't maybe that much into engineering? I mean, you grew up around BL cars. Why do you think they felt cheap?
Well, you've got to remember that BL was permanently in crisis. There was always a financial crisis or two going on at the time. And one of the reasons that BL feels cheap is that it is cheap. They were trying to save money all the time, and they save money on the interior. They thought we can design a car and people will be attracted to the design, but let's save some money inside by using some cheap switches, and not just cheap switches, let's attach them to a cheap feeling dashboard. So even if you put a good switch in BL, you'd attach it to a bit of, vinyl with a bit of like cheap wood behind it, and it would just bounce and feel really cheap. So it's down to money, really.
It's the one thing that puts me off. I mean, no car of this era was great unless it was a Rolls Royce or a very expensive Mercedes. So, you know, it is what it is. I think they just put a little bit more effort into them. It would have been all right. But anyway, you carry on talking. I'm going to hot-foot it back upstairs.
So while Matt is trying to get back up the stairs, and I'm feeling there's a kind of stair lift maybe involved, let's look at probably the worst offender in the BL stable, the shoddy switchgear. This is an Austin Allegro. Now, there's two things about the switchgear on the Allegro. One, they didn't have much of it because they wanted to save money, so you didn't really have any options. I can see a heated rear window on this one. So it had a heated rear window, it had some wipers, and you may have had a hazard switch. But apart from that, that was pretty much it. And also, when you look at the dashboard that those switches are attached to, it's really, really flimsy. It's a piece of flimsy vinyl. So every time you hit the switch, the whole dashboard would move with it. And that's what the problem with BL is. They were rubbish switches attached to a rubbish dashboard.
Right. Okay, I'm back.
Are you?
Oh, my God.
You out of breath? Do you want a break?
You've not been rude about me while I've been away, have you? Oh, my God, it's an Allegro on the screen. Oh, well, I suppose we are talking rubbish switches.
Well, look at the dash. I mean, it's just terrible, isn't it? And this is what you're talking about, your Stag dash, because unfortunately, bad switches on bad dashes.
Well, it is. I mean, first of all, it's got the same flipping switch gear on the stalks. I mean, they're the same stalks that are in everything, including the Sherpa van, aren't they? But this is completely opposite of the cars we were talking about earlier. You know those switches are going to feel vague, aren't they? You know that when you click on the heated rear screen, you're not really going to be ever sure that it's actually on, or it's going to get wedged over time. It'll just stop working. It just looks. I mean, there are not many switches, but the ones are there are not going to be very good.
And also, another thing is you can't see the switches from the driving position because they're behind the steering wheel, and they are exactly the same. So if you want to switch the hazard lights on or the rear demist, it's the same feeling switch. So you could be switching the hazards on and thinking, why is my rear window still frosted up? Because you don't get that click and you don't get to look at it and see what switch is engaged.
I mean, as you rightly said, I mean, these cars were born out of a peak cost-cutting era. But if you want to see a car that's even more cheap, to have a look at this one. Here's another car we don't talk about much on the show.
We don't talk about this for a reason.
A Reliant Super Robin, So
what is super about that?
Well, it's super that it's still going. But if you look at this one, I mean, these were built to like tiny budget, and they were built to a price, and then they were then put in a bit lower. I mean, the switchgear on this, it feels like it came from a budget domestic kind of cheap toaster or something. The stalks are thin.
Well, this is Lucas switchgear from British Leyland, but instead of putting it horizontally, they've mounted it vertically just to make it a bit different. So it's still the same rubbish switches attached to some really thin plastic. So that is just going to feel awful.
Super cheap. I'd love a go in. Have you ever driven one of these?
I have, yeah, and they're not good because you do feel like, because it's got 3 wheels, you do feel like you're going to constantly fall over.
Yeah, I mean, they were cheap though, so we can't be too hard on that.
If you look on that picture 10, it's got Merino door handles as well.
Well,
that is the sign of cheap.
Well, so cars like that were built to a price, but here's one that supposedly was good quality. This is a Roots Group car. It's a Hilmer Avenger. Again, they were disappointing really in terms of fit and finish. Roots always prided themselves in the 60s of being built to a slightly better standard, but Chrysler took them over, and then in the 70s, just things were done slightly on the cheap. And again, this is the switches had a very lightweight, rattly feel to them. The stalks kind of felt vague. They often sort of went further than they should have done, and it just didn't really, again, it didn't give you that confidence in the car.
Yeah, I think when you talked about switches, you're using plural. I can only see one switch in here, and I think it's the switch for it's a 2-speed fan, isn't it? So there's 2 positions for the fan, but they were pretty rubbish switches, and again attached to not a great dashboard. That was meant to be a better car than British Leyland. I mean, it's rubbish.
Yeah, I just think they weren't thought through. Like I said earlier, compared to the Germans, who thought about how the way things work. We've talked in the past that by switchgear, I'm talking about stalks as well here. But we talked in the past how that those Mercedes all-in-one stalks like you've got on your SL were designed, over-engineered to feel heavy, weren't they? Because the feedback gave you the impression that the car was more expensive and more quality. Whereas these, as you say, were all just done out the parts bin. And probably when they came out of the factory, they worked. But over time, the plastics degrade, they don't click. I mean, I've just had electric windows fuse on mine because a switch got stuck. They weren't built to last. Nothing was built to last, and nothing was done. It was just an afterthought, I think, especially in Britain. But I really do think it does affect how you feel about the car. And if they'd just engineered the things a little bit better, it might just make us feel a bit more prouder of the cars. But it is what it is. The cars were born out of a time, weren't they?
I mean, some cars did actually make their rubbish electronics okay. Like Jaguar, by the time they got to the Series 3 XJ6 and XJ12 and Daimler 66 and Daimler blah, 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 they actually made a dashboard that incorporated all those cheap Lucas rocker switches, but they were actually quite nice because they were screwed onto something solid. And the same in the XJS. They started to make a leap forward in dashboard quality as the cars progressed, but it was kind of too late then, because you just expected British cars to be rubbish. And by then you had the kind of E28 BMW 5 Series. And the switches on those, it's just like a work of art. The fan switch has just that beautiful feel to it. And the heater controls are great. And when you've pressed the rear demist. So by then it was too late, really. It's another one of those things that it was a nail in the coffin of the British car industry, their switches, because they just felt cheap. And that's when you bought the car and then you used it and you realized this is just a cheap make and a cheap build, and you went and bought something foreign. So that's it for episode 53. Next time, we talk economy classics. If petrol hits £1 million a gallon, what's the best classic that just sips fuel?
Also coming up next time, VW Scirocco, crush or caress? Should we rid the world of VW's rusty coupe or save it?
That's next time. Feel free to comment and complain via our Instagram or Facebook sites. We'll bin the complaints, but give us your praise on anything and we'll read it out loud.
Okay, see you next time. Bye. And that was all ad-libbed.
You did well.
Watch and learn.
You did well. Considering you cocked up reading, then you can't even sound like ad-libbing, can it?
That's right, yeah. Ad-libbed the cocking up bit as well. Gosh, it's like local radio.
It's where we belong, let's face it.